Hello, everyone. Thanks so much for being here today. We are excited to talk about a brand new law that's making waves in Texas, the Texas Responsible Artificial Intelligence Governance Act, or TRAIGA for short. This is one of the first laws in the U.S. to lay down clear rules for how artificial intelligence, or AI, should be built and used responsibly. Whether your company creates AI tools or just uses them, now's the time to get the scoop on what this law means and how you can get ready. So, let's dive in. Texas passed this law to make sure AI is a force for good, balancing innovation with protecting people. It's like setting ground rules for a powerful new tool. We want to use it wisely. The law has 4 big goals, and we'll break them down in a way that's easy to grasp. Texas wants businesses to build and use AI in a way that's ethical and thoughtful. Think of it like driving a car. You've got to follow the rules to keep everyone safe. AI can be amazing, but it can also have downsides if not handled carefully. This law helps shield people from potential harms, like unfair decisions or privacy issues. People deserve to know when AI is being used and how it's affecting them. TRAIGA pushes for clear communication so there's no guesswork. It's not just businesses. Government agencies in Texas have to use AI responsibly too. Everyone's playing by the same rules. In short, TRAIGA is about helping AI grow in Texas while keeping things fair, safe, and open. It's a win-win. Businesses can innovate, and consumers can feel confident. That's the big picture of TRAIGA's goals. As we go forward, we'll explore what this means for your business and share practical steps to stay on the right side of the law. You'll walk away with a clear sense of how to make AI work for you while keeping Texas happy. Thank you for joining me today. Let's keep the conversation going. Today we're going to break down who needs to pay attention to this law, what counts as an AI system, who qualifies as a consumer, and the key roles involved. Our goal is to make this as clear and practical as possible so you can walk away knowing exactly how TRAIGA applies to your work. Let's jump right in. First things first, who does TRAIGA apply to? If your company does business in Texas, this law is on your radar. That includes anyone who operates in Texas, sells services to Texas residents, or uses AI to serve Texas consumers. In other words, if your business touches Texas in any way, whether you're based in Texas or just serving customers in Texas, you need to know about TRAIGA. It's like a big Texas-sized net that catches anyone working with AI in the state. So, let's make sure you're ready to comply. Now let's talk about what TRAIGA means by an artificial intelligence system, or AIS for short. The law defines it pretty broadly. An AIS is any machine-based system that takes inputs, learns from them, and generates outputs like content, decisions, predictions, or recommendations. These outputs have to be capable of influencing the physical or virtual world. In plain English, if your system learns from data and spits out predictions or suggestions, it's probably an AIS. This covers a huge range of tools. We're talking about everything from sophisticated large language models, like the ones generating marketing content, to simpler machine learning systems predicting equipment failures. Here are a few examples to bring it home. A retail recommendation engine that suggests products based on what customers bought before. A mortgage risk model that predicts loan defaults. A chatbot answering customer support questions. If your system learns and recommends, TRAIGA's watching. So whether you're building a fancy AI or using a basic one internally, it's likely covered. Next, let's clarify who the law considers a consumer. This is important because TRAIGA focuses on protecting individuals in specific contexts. A consumer is a Texas resident acting in a personal or household capacity. Think someone shopping online or using a service for their family. But here's the key. The term doesn't include people acting in a commercial or employment context. So, if someone's using your AI system as part of their job or business, they're not a consumer under TRAIGA. This distinction helps you know whose rights you're protecting when you design or use AI. TRAIGA also defines 2 key players in the AI world: developers and deployers. Let's break these down. Developers are the folks who build AI systems. If your company creates an AI tool and offers, sells, leases, or provides it in Texas, you're a developer. Think of it as the team designing the engine. Deployers are the folks who use those AI systems in the real world. If you take an AI tool and put it to work in Texas, say to serve customers or streamline operations, you're a deployer. Think of this as the driver putting the engine to use. Here's the kicker. Some companies wear both hats. For example, if you build an AI tool and use it to serve your customers, you're both a developer and a deployer. Either way, TRAIGA has expectations for you. Let's tie it all together. TRAIGA applies to you if you meet any of these criteria. You promote, advertise, or conduct business in Texas. You produce products or services used by Texas residents. You develop or deploy an AI system in Texas. In short, if your business involves Texas residents or uses AI in Texas, you're on the hook. It's a broad reach, but it's designed to ensure AI is used responsibly across the state. So, there you have it, the who, what, and how of TRAIGA's applicability. Whether you're building AI, using it, or serving Texas customers, this law sets clear expectations to keep things ethical and fair. To bring this to life, we'll soon walk through some scenarios to see how these rules apply in practice. Thank you for joining us today. Let's keep the momentum going as we explore how to stay compliant and make AI work for everyone. Any questions before we move on? This law sets some clear ground rules for companies working with AI, and today we're going to walk through the most critical ones. Our goal is to make this practical and straightforward so you can see exactly what TRAIGA expects and how it applies to your work. Let's dive in. First up, TRAIGA is crystal clear. Businesses cannot develop or deploy AI systems with the intent to unlawfully discriminate against a protected class. Now, what's a protected class? Think groups covered by state or federal civil rights laws. Race, color, national origin, sex, age, religion, disability, and so on. The key word here is intent. TRAIGA says that a disparate impact where an AI system unintentionally disadvantages a protected group isn't enough on its own to prove discrimination. Let me give you an example to make this concrete. Imagine your company uses an AI tool to review loan applications. If that tool gives fewer approvals to one group because of biased historical data, that's a problem, but it doesn't automatically mean you intended to discriminate. However, if the system was deliberately designed to exclude a certain group, say by targeting specific demographics, that's a clear violation of TRAIGA. Intent makes all the difference. So the takeaway? You've got to know what your AI is doing and why. Unintended bias might not violate TRAIGA's discrimination clause, but it's still something you'll want to catch and fix. Next, TRAIGA says you can't use AI to intentionally encourage harmful or illegal behavior. This one's pretty straightforward. AI should never be a tool for causing trouble. For example, if a company releases a chatbot that nudges people towards self-harm or criminal activity, that's a massive red flag and a serious violation of the act. The principle here is simple. AI should be a force for good, not harm. Think of it like this. Your AI is like a megaphone. What you choose to amplify matters. And TRAIGA holds you accountable for ensuring it's not amplifying anything dangerous or illegal. Now let's talk about biometric data. Things like retina scans, fingerprints, voice prints, or even the unique shape of your face or hand. This is sensitive stuff, and TRAIGA has specific rules for handling it. AI developers can use biometric data for training in some cases, which is great for building better models. But the moment you start using that data for commercial purposes, like authenticating customers or targeting ads, the rules change. At that point, you've got to follow strict guidelines for storing, using, and eventually destroying that data when it's no longer needed. It's like borrowing someone's diary. You handle it with care, and you don't keep it longer than necessary. Messing this up can lead to big compliance headaches, so it's worth getting right. All right, so how do you put all this into action? If your company uses or develops AI, here are a few practical steps to start preparing now. Firstly, map your AI systems. Get a clear picture of every AI tool you're using and where it interacts with customer data. You can't manage what you don't know. Secondly, check your data practices. Be transparent and fair about how you collect and use data. Make sure your processes hold up under scrutiny. Thirdly, review governance policies. Set up internal checks to spot potential risks early, like biased outcomes or improper data use. Fourthly, train your teams. Ensure everyone in your organization knows how to use AI responsibly and stays within the law. These steps aren't just about checking boxes, they're about building trust and showing your customers you're serious about ethical AI. We've covered the big three: discrimination, harmful manipulation, and biometric data, and some practical ways to stay compliant. To bring this all home, we're going to walk through a few scenarios to see how TRAIGA's standards play out in real-world situations, focusing on intent and scope. These examples will help you connect the dots and apply these rules to your own AI systems. Let's keep exploring how to make AI work responsibly under TRAIGA. Any questions before we dive into those scenarios? Now we will dive into some practical scenarios to understand how the Texas Responsible Artificial Intelligence Governance Act, let's call it TRAIGA for short, applies in the real world. We're going to walk through 2 case studies involving AI systems and explore how this law evaluates compliance, especially when it comes to tricky issues like disparate impact and intent to discriminate. Ready? Let's get started. Let's look at the first scenario. Imagine a large Texas corporation rolling out an AI hiring platform called Talent Select to screen resumes for entry-level jobs. The system uses a machine learning model trained on 20 years of data from the company's most successful employees. Sounds promising, right? But here's the catch. The historical workforce wasn't very diverse, and the model starts to deprioritize resumes with language linked to certain protected minority groups. The result? A disparate impact on candidates based on national origin during the screening process. So, let's break this down with TRAIGA in mind. The key question under the Act is whether this outcome, disparate impact, equals intent to unlawfully discriminate. Here's how it shakes out. Talent Select's model created a disparate impact, meaning it disproportionately affected candidates from protected groups, like those tied to certain national origins. TRAIGA is clear. Disparate impact alone isn't enough to prove intent to discriminate. The law looks at whether the system was designed or deployed with discriminatory goals in mind. If the corporation can show solid documentation that Talent Select's goal was purely to predict job performance based on neutral job-relevant metrics like skills or experience, and that the biased outcome was an unintended result of flawed historical data, they're likely in the clear under TRAIGA. But if there's evidence the developers knowingly used proxies for protected characteristics, like names or phrases tied to national origin, to skew the results, that's a serious violation, and it's not something they can easily fix. This scenario shows how critical it is to understand your training data and its limitations. Even with the best intentions, historical biases can creep in, and TRAIGA puts the burden on businesses to catch those issues early. Let's look at the second scenario. Now let's switch gears to a financial example. Fintech corporation Beta builds an AI system to evaluate creditworthiness for small business loans, crunching millions of data points from decades of lending history. The model seems neutral at first, but an audit reveals it's favoring businesses in certain locations that historically got more funding. The result? Fewer favorable loan offers go to businesses owned by minority entrepreneurs, creating a disparate impact based on race and national origin. Let's unpack this under TRAIGA. Just like in the first scenario, the Act focuses on intent versus impact. Here's the breakdown. The AI system caused a disparate impact, disproportionately affecting businesses owned by Hispanic and Black entrepreneurs. TRAIGA says disparate impact alone doesn't prove intent to unlawfully discriminate. The law looks at whether the system was built or deployed with discriminatory motives. If Fintech Corporation Beta can prove their system used unbiased variables, like revenue, collateral, or debt-to-equity ratios, and the disparate impact came from historical biases in the lending data, not intentional discrimination, they likely haven't violated TRAIGA. That said, they're not off the hook entirely. Other civil rights laws, which TRAIGA doesn't override, might still require them to address the impact. This scenario is a wake-up call for businesses. Even if you're compliant with TRAIGA, you've got to keep an eye on broader legal obligations to ensure your AI systems don't unintentionally harm protected groups. Both of these scenarios show how TRAIGA draws a line between accidental bias and intentional discrimination. It's a big step toward making AI safer and more ethical, but it also puts responsibility on businesses to know their data, audit their systems, and act proactively. By getting ahead of these issues, you're not just staying compliant, you're building trust, showing accountability, and leading the way in responsible AI development. Thank you for joining us today. Let's keep the conversation going as we explore how to put these principles into practice in your own work. Any questions? We are all ears. We have reached the end of this module. Thank you for your attention.